Rochester is often praised for its dynamic art scene, but just how inclusive and equitable is that scene? Members of a recently formed art group say not enough, and so they decided to do something about it. A number of heavy hitters in the arts world, many renowned in Rochester and some around the world, recently launched the Woke Art Collaborative, Woke being an acronym for Women of Color. The multi-generational collective of Black women and women of color creators are advocating for each other and finding ways to support other creators in Rochester working to impact the community. Joining me from the group to share more is Rachel de Guzman, founder of Woke Art Collaborative, who is also the president and CEO of 21st Century Arts. Rena Golden, founding member of Woke Art Collaborative and also the founder and managing artistic director of the Avenue Black Box Theater. And Dolores Jackson Radney, founding member of Woke Art Collaborative and co-owner of Kumba Consultants. And welcome back to all of you. It's great to have you back together for this topic, so I appreciate it. So when some people talk about the Rochester art scene, they will say that it is flourishing with opportunities. And I would imagine that some of you and some members of your group might say, yeah, to a certain extent, but not entirely. So I want to know, in what ways have you seen, do you see inequity in our local art scene here in Rochester?
I think you see you do see, I mean, everybody in Woke Art Collaborative, every member is very active in the community. They're very prolific in their art making. And I think really it isn't about what they're not doing. It's about resource allocation, it's about visibility, and it's about the most resourced organizations and institutions in our town not being very equitable and not being very diverse. I mean, that's been true for a long time, even though starting in probably 2006, 2007, almost every conference in every field that you go to, it said equity, community, diversity, racism, and we really are even behind other places as far as women of color being represented at the tables, at those tables of decision making, and again, a matter of where the well-resourced organizations, and that's just a fact. I mean, if you were to look at those organizations that get the most resources in Rochester, we don't have any equity there. We don't have people of color, and that is not just opportunities, lost opportunities for us as people, women of color. It's also has a negative impact on the field.
Right. Talk about that. What is that negative impact? What does that look like?
Well, I can say that the reason that we started Kumba Consultants is that we wanted to create opportunity for ourselves. And so one of the things that Woke Art Collective is going to be is a self-determined and defined group to go out and look for anything that we decide that we want and we think is equitable and fair for us, as we've been doing this work in community already. And so it's just a continuation, and we're better. We always say that we're better and smarter together, and so the fact that it's a collective even brings more power and possibility to our community.
And even looking at that idea, I love that both Dolores and Rachel were talking about really what it means to work in collaboration for the greater good of the community. Like, this collaborative really is about, you know, bringing our individual light, you know, to the table, to a very important table too, because it's not always about joining. You know, it is. We love the idea of joining. All of us are a part of different organizations. We've been a part of boards and committees, but sometimes it's about creating new tables specifically because we want to create new models of what it really looks like to collaborate, what it really looks like to become, to start off as equitable, right? Versus going back and trying to figure out, okay, how do we become equitable after we've already created all these systems that are not equitable? So starting, you know, from the ground up, and I think when you look around at all the different women that are a part of Woke Art, you find that we have some really strong models in our own businesses, in our own art forms, in our own fields, that really, when you put those things at the table from the start as a foundation, it really changes the game.
And one of the things that both of you have touched on that I think is critical to really focus on is that we're not a reactive organization. It is not our intent to go around and like, look, oh, that organization's not being equitable, or this is not equitable. That's not really what we're about. It's like Dolores and Rena were saying. We have ideas, we have concepts of what the art scene should look like. We are innovators. Every one of us, all 11 of us, have innovated in some way within our careers and with the work we're doing. And just imagine how powerful that can be when we come together and we're innovating. And so we're not really looking over our shoulders and saying, what aren't people doing? We're actually creating a forum to be able to develop the work that we think should be done.
Before we talk about that forum and kind of get into the nuts and bolts and the details of that, how did all of you find each other? Because I know Rochester it's a small community and we know of each other, but what was the kind of the thinking in terms of these are the 11, these are the women that we have to have at the table to be a part of this, that will really be able to spearhead this work?
And I could speak on that a little bit. I mean, it's through relationships. It's through working together on many projects together. And this was something that in the broadest concept, certainly it's evolved into something even different than what I had thought of in the beginning, was something that I was concentrating on and thought of when I was doing a fellowship on equity in the arts in New York City. And I wanted some kind of center for equity. I named it some crazy name that woke art is really much better. And that was one of our first collaborative moves, was to come up with a better name. And I'll give credit to Michelle Harris and to Kaylin Rich for kind of working that out at one of our first meetings. But so I actually went to people that I knew. And I went to Rena first, because Rena and I work collaboratively on so many levels these days. But we've worked, some of these people I've worked with for like 15 years in some capacity or another, and then they've worked with each other. But everyone in the group has created something of their own. So they had, even in an inequitable world, they had developed some kind of power, empowered themselves to actually create things. They're innovators, they're creators. And the other part of it that was critical from my vision was that some part of their work was involved with social justice. And so then it was a matter of, I think I tapped 9 people, and then a couple of other people were tapped from the conversations. But the first time we were in the room together, we actually knew that the group was right. I mean, the energy and the excitement and everything were really great. And I didn't really worry about the people that weren't at the table, because I figure that we're starting something and maybe other people will start things too. We're not jealous of other people deciding to collaborate on something that they do too, because that's all only better for Rochester if they do. But we feel good with the group that we have.
Let's talk about the tables that you are creating, so people know. I know that you are intended to be a place for ideas and action. So what does that mean? What does that look like? And what do you want to bring to Rochester?
I think also one part of it is continuing to further the work that each of us are doing, but also, like Rachel says, many of us I've worked with everyone that is a part of Woke Art, and continue to have projects that we're working on even as we're forming Woke Art, and thinking about future collaborations as well. And so a big part of it does have to do with how do we support each other as well as other women of color artists out here, as they are also coming forward in that too. Just like Rachel said, it really is, it has a lot to do with finding space for us to create this, but also create other things around town and even outside of town, because many of us work outside of Rochester as well together.
And I was just thinking about the power of the table and sitting around the table and sharing ideas and making something so powerful, and the excitement of not knowing exactly what it might be right now. But with that, the power of everyone coming together with their strong ideas, with their own vision. I think we all are game changers and visionary. And bringing those ideas together can only benefit something that we all care for, and that is community.
And one of the most radical things we did was come together. I mean, I think that, we have this tagline, a game changer for change agents, because we are change agents. But just that's a declaration in a town that doesn't necessarily recognize Black and brown women. That we actually have a vision, and we do collaborate. It brings all the collaborations that we've done in the past. It actually makes them more visible, and we actually are launching. And it was funny because we were launched, and that was something that the writer actually, an article that came out, that we were launching Empower. We said we were launching Empower. We're launching Empower as far as being very confident in why we're coming together, and also having a space. The fact that we have our own space is a game changer.
You recently, before we started filming, you talked about how you've had a couple of open house events, and you've had people kind of check off this box and say, yes, I am a woman of color and I'm a creative, and you were being introduced to people that you had never met before. So in addition to kind of honing in on who these people are and how you can support them, is there one thing that you're really excited about? We've got 30 seconds left coming up that is you want people to know.
The directory. Reach out to us, because we are trying to compile a directory, and that was something Nigel Gage Thorne, one of our collaborative members, put as one of the first actions we had, because people will say, I can't find somebody.
And this is the way.
And this is
know anyone who, you know, we all get that question often. Do you know anyone else who does this, does that? So that
we have to close for now, but I want to thank you all for being here. And you can learn more about the Woke Art Collaborative, its upcoming events, and its crowdfunding campaign at facebook.com/WOC Art 585.